Greetings, gentle observer, and welcome. I am RDF, and within this non-edited video I shall show how the government use propaganda, lies and half-truths, as well as social coercion in order to maintain the climate change lie. Propaganda and lies they disseminate via the mainstream media, whereas social coercion is done on a one-to-one basis via intimidation and threats. So powerful a medium for propaganda is TV, for example, that under government control the people can be made to believe almost anything, as TV broadcasters are bound, albeit by an unwritten law, to broadcast, or as importantly not to broadcast, anything the government so direct them to do. And should this unwritten rule be broken, then harsh measures are sure to follow. A classic example of how TV broadcasters must adhere to government directives can be found in the very sad case of the wildlife observer and commentator, the late Dr. David Bellamy, who tells how he originally went along with the climate change story, but upon doing his own research he came to the conclusion that it was, and in his own words, poppycock. He then went on to broadcast his doubts far and wide, following which Dr. Bellamy's career ended in an instant. He tells how a planned 6-part series for the BBC was instantly cancelled without explanation, and how, when he approached ITV, who had been headhunting him for years, and in Dr. Bellamy's own words, they did not want to know. As if to confirm this, gentle observer, then firstly consider the fact that whilst many TV programmes are repeated, not one programme featuring Dr. Bellamy has ever been shown. Indeed, his very name is never even mentioned. And secondly, simply think back to the time when Dr. Bellamy was on our TV screens almost daily, only to disappear in an instant as if abducted by aliens. In an interview with the reporter Paul Callaghan in 2013, Dr. Bellamy tells how his colleague Sir David Attenborough, and in Dr. Bellamy's own words, and I quote, was on our side denying man-made climate change at first, but then he had a change of heart, end quote. Following this change of heart, Sir David went on to embrace the climate change story and was to see his career go from strength to strength. So much so that he is now one of the biggest proponents of the climate change lie. We shall, of course, never know as to whether Sir David had this change of heart after re-evaluating his own research, or, having seen how his colleague Dr. Bellamy had been treated and realising which side of the bread held the butter, he then went on to embrace the climate change story. The world of academia suffers from the self-same bias and social coercion, for it must be remembered that most scientists are paid either directly or indirectly by the government, and so they have to toe the government line if they are to advance their career, or indeed if they are to even keep their career. For it must be remembered that you do not have to believe something to be true in order to say that it is. And as many in academia do just this, then sadly, science itself now stands corrupted. Multiply this social manipulation and coercion right across the board, and it is easy to see how the government maintain the climate change myth. Go along with it or suffer the consequences. In order to understand the effects all this propaganda has on the general public, it will help, rather strange and bizarrely, I do appreciate, if we first go back to the Middle Ages. For at that time people did not see God as some abstract figure, but God was perceived as governing all aspects of their daily lives. Today, however, most people do not see God in the same way, and indeed many people do not believe in the existence of God at all. This, however, has left a void in the human psyche, for it would appear that people have a deep-rooted desire to believe in something greater than themselves. A belief system, if you will, all can share and all can agree upon. And this being so, then the climate change myth has now taken on the mantra of a religion, with its followers totally disregarding logic and facts in favour of blind faith alone. And this being so, just as everything that happened in the Middle Ages was laid at the feet of God, today we see that all and everything that happens is attributed to climate change. Thus it is that drought or flood, too much snow or not enough snow, cats howling at night, the number of daisies in your lawn, all and everything, no matter how bizarre, is now attributed to climate change, as it was to God in the Middle Ages. I recently watched, for example, an episode of Sir David Attenborough's TV wildlife documentary series, Our Planet, in which walrus were seen falling from cliffs. An action that was instantly attributed to climate change by the wildlife producer and director, Sophie Lanphier, who said, and I quote, "This is the sad reality of climate change," unquote. But this animal behaviour has been seen and recorded in different parts of the world and over many, many years, and is attributed to nothing more than overpopulation. Given Sir David's wildlife expertise, I find it incredulous that he did not know this. And if he did know this, I find it equally as incredulous that he chose to tell the viewers not the true reason for this behaviour, but rather that it was the result of climate change. As to whether Sir David was simply in error, or was following the government directive to attribute anything and everything to climate change, we shall of course never know. The climate change religion then is no different from many other religions, inasmuch as it has a Messiah figure, in this instance Miss Greta Thunberg, a young woman who, by her own admission, does not bother with silly little things such as logic or facts. She does, however, have the attribute of looking completely childlike and completely helpless, so much so that to criticise her is seen as offensive and bullying, thus making her the ideal Messiah figure. And once more, and in common with many religions, should someone such as myself cast doubt upon their beliefs, then we are instantly labelled as a denier, a descriptive with clear and obvious religious connotations, and a word that suggests that the speaker is denying something that is intrinsically correct, when all we are doing in truth is to question an unproven belief system. The one aspect of this new religion I find most disturbing is the fact that the so-called climate crisis is being presented and taught to our children as if it were fact, instead of some fabricated, unproven nonsense. For, and as with many scientists, if teachers want to keep their job, then they simply have to go along with the climate change lie, whether they want to or not, or even whether they believe it or not. On religion, the Roman philosopher Seneca said, and I quote, "Religion is regarded by the common people as true, by the wise as false, and by the rulers as useful." End quote. In keeping the climate change lie alive, our rulers clearly find the climate change religion very, very useful indeed. I am RDF, and I thank you for watching my humble video, and I do so hope you will subscribe and press the notification